Every once in a while when I'm researching for a video, I find an old rumor that makes me say, huh, I didn't know about that one. Dale Earnhardt to Yates is one of those rumors. So, for this particular story, there wasn't just one place that I could find the whole story. So, a lot of information in this video is pieced together from reading articles and forums and listening to interviews with people who were close to the situation. So, I'll put links to all my sources in the description. While Yates Racing's 28 car was considered one of the top teams in NASCAR in the early to mid 90s, they had suffered more than their fair share of tragedy, with the sudden passing of Davey Allison and the injury of Ernie Irvan that would keep him sidelined for over a year, including nearly the entirety of the 1995 season. In an interview on the Dale Jr. Download, Doug Yates said that during the 95 season, Ford approached Robert Yates and said that they wanted him to field a second car in 1996, with sponsorship from Ford Credit and Quality Care. And even more critically, he stated that they wanted his father to sign Dale Earnhardt to drive the car. The younger Yates said that his father knew that certain drivers just belonged with certain manufacturers. Richard Petty was a Dodge driver, and Dale Earnhardt was a Chevy driver. He said that his dad went back to Ford and said that they already had the right Dale for the car, and that was Dale Jarrett, who had been filling in for Ernie Irvan in the 28 car throughout the 95 season. Edsel Ford apparently responded by agreeing to put Jarrett in the 88 car the following year, and stated that their goal was to go out and beat that 3 car, which they would do in the Daytona 500 the following year. But there's part of the story that Yates didn't really talk about in his interview. In an article written by Tom Jensen on the NASCAR Hall of Fame website, Robert Yates, the man himself, said that not only did he give Dale Earnhardt the contract, Earnhardt signed it, but never gave it back. However, Robert Yates was referencing how close Earnhardt came to driving the 88 car, not the 28 car. He said that when the contract wasn't returned, he called Ford and said, "I like racing against Dale Earnhardt, let's take the other Dale and beat him," referring to Dale Jarrett. Now, you may hear that and think, hey, you clearly put the 28 car in the thumbnail, not the 88. What's with the clickbait? Well, that's where the information from Larry McReynolds' interview on the Scene Vault comes in. McReynolds was the crew chief of the 28 car at the time, and while he does state that he was not aware of everything that went on in the pursuit of Earnhardt, he says that it was his understanding that there were 2 hang-ups. One of them being that Earnhardt wanted to drive the 28 car, not the 88 car. And, I mean, if we're being honest, the black 28 car fit Earnhardt's style a lot better than the blue 88. According to McReynolds, Yates responded to this demand by telling Earnhardt that the 28 car was something that he could not offer because that was Ernie Irvan's car. The other issue that McReynolds says he understands to have been involved was that Earnhardt wanted a $1 million salary, which he was not going to get from Yates. So, it would seem that in the end, if there was a true possibility of Earnhardt going to Yates, there was a fundamental conflict over the driver arrangement, with Earnhardt wanting to be in the black 28 car and the team planning to put him in the 88. And it wasn't just the team. Ford specifically pushed Robert Yates to start this new team with the backing of Ford Credit and Quality Care, and Ford said that they wanted Earnhardt to be their guy in that car. Obviously, if Yates had come back to them and said, "I got Earnhardt, but he'll only do it if he's in the 28 car and Ernie Irvan moves to the 88, I am sure Ford would have been thrilled just to have Earnhardt in a blue oval. But that was not the stated goal. The people of Reddit seem to have had a pretty cool and fun conversation about this topic some years ago, but if you start diving into some other old racing forums looking for this topic, some people have some very strong feelings on it. There are some parts of the internet where things got heated about this story. Admittedly, there are some parts of the story that I have questions about, and we'll get into that at the end of the video. But first, let's have some fun and entertain the idea of it happening. This series is called Weird NASCAR Rumors, after all, so I feel like that gives us license to have some fun with a story like this. First off, it's impossible to undersell the enormity of this move. Just within the last couple of weeks, We've seen the news of 6-time IndyCar champion Scott Dixon leaving his home of 25 years at Ganassi to presumably finish out his career at McLaren. Just a couple of years ago, we saw 7-time Formula One champion Lewis Hamilton leave Mercedes for Ferrari. 7-time champion Dale Earnhardt leaving RCR for Yates would be a move that carried at least as much weight as those moves, if not more. The Scott Dixon move was compared by some to Tom Brady leaving the Patriots for the Buccaneers, and perhaps that would be the best comparison for this. Because just like how we got to have the question, who played the bigger role, Brady or Belichick, answered, we would have gotten an answer to the question, who played a bigger role, Earnhardt or Richard Childress? I believe that the record book would have shown that Earnhardt was the more successful of the two after the breakup. That isn't to say that Richard Childress didn't play a big role in their success, but you need to consider a couple of things here. One, 1995 began the reign of Jeff Gordon and Hendrick Motorsports, and from 96 through really 2001, Dale Jarrett's 88 team was one of the only teams that was capable of winning a respectable number of races against that group. From 1996 to 2000, Dale Jarrett won 20 races in the 88 car, including 2 Daytona 500s and the 1999 championship. Ernie Irvan and the 28 team would pick up 3 wins during that time as well. Earnhardt and RCR would only win 8 races in that stretch, and 1997 would be one of only 2 winless seasons in Earnhardt's full-time career. So Earnhardt wouldn't just be leaving for any other team. He'd be leaving for an elite team, even if it wasn't the god-level team that Jeff Gordon and Hendrick Motorsports had. I genuinely believe that Earnhardt would have won a lot of races and perhaps even an 8th championship at Yates, even if it would be uncomfortable for some fans to see him in a car without the number 3 on it. The second thing to consider is, who does Richard Childress get to replace him in the 3 car? There is no one who could replace Dale Earnhardt in the 3 car that would have been at the same level. The first thought that may come to your head is Dale Jarrett, but that possibility is off the table for reasons that we'll get into in just one moment. The next 2 drivers that come to mind are actually the Burton brothers, Jeff and Ward, both of whom were movers in the silly season market that year, with Jeff signing a deal with Roush and Ward signing a deal to drive for Bill Davis. Actually, the funny thing is that Ward was offered that Roush deal before Jeff, but that's a story for a future video. Yes, to those in the comments who have been saying they want a Ward Burton missed opportunities video, I've started doing a little bit of research for it. I think that Jeff Burton would have been a terrific choice for the 3 car, as we got to see just what he was capable of in years to come. Burton would actually go on to race for RCR nearly a decade later. Another driver who could have been considered was Michael Waltrip, who was also a silly season mover at this time. But I have a harder time seeing this one. Waltrip had been a full-time Cup Series driver for 10 years at this point, and had 0 wins to show for it, which isn't really filling Dale Earnhardt's shoes type material. At least Jeff Burton had the image of being an up-and-coming driver that a team could grow around. Now, the reason why I say that Dale Jarrett was not an option is because at this point, the ball was already rolling for him to bring his Busch Series team up to the Cup Series, and Robert Yates was only able to throw the brakes on that one at the very last moment. That's another story that people have left comments about, and I've actually begun doing a little bit of research for that one too. So if you're interested in a video on that story, hit subscribe, and I'm hoping to have that one put together fairly soon. Perhaps the more interesting consequences of an Earnhardt move from RCR to Yates wouldn't have been in the immediate fallout of the move, and instead have come years later as Dale Earnhardt Incorporated became an established Cup Series team. While DEI wouldn't field a full-time entry until 1998, the team ran its first Cup Series races in 96, the same year that Earnhardt would have made the move to Yates. Obviously, this would have meant that the team would have been racing Fords instead of Chevys. So, DEI is a Ford team. But I want to address one possibility in particular. In Weird NASCAR Rumors 2007, I talked about the merger that was discussed between DEI and Yates, as both teams were struggling and on the decline at the time. One of the things that prevented it from happening was each side's steadfast commitment to their manufacturers, DEI to Chevy and Yates to Ford. If DEI was already a Ford team, then perhaps this deal goes through. Maybe the merger to create Earnhardt-Yates Racing just feels like a natural move at a time when teams were struggling and mergers seemed to be happening on a weekly basis due to uncertainty in the economy. Ultimately, I don't believe that this deal was ever really going to happen. It is entirely possible that Dale Earnhardt actually did sign the contract and never returned it, and then told Robert Yates about it later. I don't think that anyone involved would simply lie about things that happen, but even though we live in a world of electronic signatures and DocuSign today, that didn't exist then. And it's entirely possible that Earnhardt signed the contract, thought about it some more, and decided not to hand it back. That's what I believe likely happened, but sadly, neither of the two men involved are here today to ask about it. The forum discussions that I read about this story were all from several years ago, so I'm going to invite you to start a new discussion in the comments. Let's recklessly speculate today in true Weird NASCAR Rumors fashion. Like I said, I will leave links to my sources in the description so you can see for yourself. Please leave a like and subscribe if you've enjoyed the video, and share with a friend. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the comments.